watching these miracles and these promises like come true for them, and knowing that like if I like stick around, like that could be true for me too.
Welcome back to the PMR podcast. My name is Mitch. I'm an addict alcoholic. This is episode 62. Super excited to be here today with Jenni, who is our guest. She is a digital marketing. She has a digital marketing agency where she works with musicians and artists. And I'll ask her to explain that a little bit better than I did. But super excited today. We have Nova in here as well, as always. Thank you to her. And I talked with you yesterday a little bit about your story and today, and I'm excited to sit down and talk more in depth with you. So happy that you're here.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, first time podcaster. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah. The studio here at X Tribe is unreal.
Oh, I'm obsessed already. Yes.
Isn't it nuts?
Yes.
Yeah, we're so lucky to be here, and the podcast thing. I guess this is 62 episodes in, so I shouldn't be like feeling weird anymore, but it is still like wild that this is something that I do.
No, I think it's so cool that you had an idea and you like put it into motion. You actually did the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is dope.
Yeah.
So you're friends with Sarah?
Yes.
And how did you meet her?
Sarah and I met at my home group.
Okay.
Actually, we technically met on Zoom.
There you go.
Yeah, I just kept seeing her face pop up at some of the 12-step meetings that I go to.
Yeah.
And we ended up like getting coffee and then talking, and now she's like one of my closest friends.
That's
so,
Yeah, Sarah's the best. That's cool. And so we talked a little bit also, obviously you mentioned 12-step, you're in recovery. And you mentioned, did you just get 6 years, or you're coming up on 6 years?
I got 6 years in August
Awesome.
9th.
Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you. It feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a big party surrounded by my friends and family, and it was interesting. I got to mix like a lot of my sober crew with my normal life music crew and family members, and it was just really cool seeing everyone just like come together.
Yeah, that's badass. I like that. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey to 6 years? Because everyone's got a spicy story.
Yes. It's definitely it's been a journey for sure. It's not my first time trying to get sober. I tried to get sober probably 4 or 5 times previously. Most of it was court ordered or mandated. My dad is actually in the program, and he kind of like trailblazed it for us. Back when I graduated high school and went to college. So he was doing his thing, he was getting sober, and I was like, peace, I'm out. Like, that's great for you, but like not for me. Yeah. I went to UC Santa Barbara, which I picked it because it was like, oh, it's so pretty, it's on the ocean, like not realizing the full extent of it being like a massive party school. Mm-hmm. And it was incredible. It was awesome. I was definitely not prepared for it. I didn't really drink or experiment too much in high school. So college, I was like trying to make friends, but also like testing my limits and boundaries and not having a lot of success. It was really hard for me to make friends. And I also had a chip on my shoulder because my parents like couldn't afford for me to go to that school. And I was, I'm an alcoholic, I'm defiant, I'm gonna do it anyways, watch me. Mm-hmm. Which also meant I had to work multiple jobs the entire time, and I had a chip on my shoulder because like no one else has to here. Like everyone's just enjoying their life and going to school and partying, and I like had to be responsible, and I worked 3 jobs almost every single year. So that definitely feeling not part of and feeling other definitely like drove me to self-medicate and to drink and to really like try to fit in, but I just didn't feel like I did, and it was tough. College was really tough for me. It was like a bit of a blur. I found someone who drank like me and got in a relationship with them, and I was like, okay, cool, and it was just like very destructive. I got my first arrest. I flipped off a cop and I said some mouthy things to him. And they were like, who's this little girl? Like, what? So I got thrown in jail and was supposed to go to meetings. And that was my first introduction. Yeah. I was like, okay, like, fine, I'm going to do this thing, get like my it checked off, and then like I'm out.
Yeah. So you had the court slip.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, I did. Well, and UCSB is like addiction and alcoholism is like so prevalent there that they actually have like on campus.
Oh, there you go.
12-step program on campus.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I didn't go, but it's great for other people.
Right. Yeah, good for them.
Yeah. So by my senior year, I found a way to actually like make a career out of drinking. I worked at a nightclub downtown, and I would give people drink tickets, and I would get like, I think $1 for every girl and 50 cents for every boy that came in and turned in their drink tickets. So I was just like giving it out, and I felt like I was adding value to people, and I was like cool, and I would like be in the club at night, and like I wasn't even 21, so I couldn't drink, but I was like facilitating bottle service and like getting people in, and like that was like when I was like, oh, like this is it. Like I needed that validation, and it was so nice to have a job where I like couldn't really drink because I was working. Right. I graduated, and the girl who ran the marketing department and promotions ended up going to rehab, and I got her job by default. And I was a 21 years old marketing promotions manager of a big nightclub. I was like, let's do it. So I did. And I managed to stay in Santa Barbara for like an extra 6 years, just like throwing these massive parties and drinking all night, doing a bunch of drugs, going to work the next day, and somehow functioning. Mm-hmm. And it was just like deja vu. It got to the point where I just felt like a shell of a person. I was having a hard time being a productive member of society. Like, didn't know that like when you get a credit card, you have to like pay it back. Like I got a DUI, and my best thinking was, why would I like drive home from work? I should just get rid of my car and walk home and live closer to the bars.
There you go.
So that's what I did. And like that was my best thinking. That was like the best I could do at the time. And it was really challenging. I got back into a 12-step program again, court ordered, and just didn't like it, didn't feel a part of, didn't want to share. And that I wasn't the problem, like you guys were the problem. And yeah, it was really rough for me. I was always like losing friend groups. I've pretty much been fired from every job I've ever had that had an actual boss. I just defiant, like it's hard to tell me what to do. I know better than you. Like, why would I, like, you should do this. And I was just like not very pleasant. And I went through like bouts of not drinking, would be good, like build my life up again, and then fumble. Yeah. And I feel very blessed that the person who like had ended up like going to rehab and I got her job, she stayed in my circle and she became like my Eskimo. And I watched her, like she never like tried to like encourage me to go to a 12-step program. She never encouraged me to stop drinking. She just became this like beautiful example of what happens when you do the work. Oh. Yeah, and I watched her blossom. I watched her grow. I watched her like pay off her student loans. And then I watched her move to Turkey and follow her dream and teach English to kids there, and then meet the love of her life and get married. And I was just like, oh man, like if that could be possible for her, it could be for me. But I just like wasn't able to. I wasn't there yet. Yeah. So I was debating leaving Santa Barbara, but then I got offered a job at a music venue, and like that really clicked for me. I found like a sense of purpose there. I loved it. I've always been a huge fan of music. I've like love a certain artist, and I got to book the entertainment, market it, promote it, do street team, and be the person the night of that took care of everything, which it's not a one-person job, but I was like, I will do it all. Like, I was so eager to learn. And I did. I made up a fake company called JMFC, what stands for Jenni motherfucking Call.
That's it.
I'm Jenni Call. And just started reaching out to agents in LA and was like, yo, I have this venue. It's like $350 cap.
Yeah.
Like, does your artist want to come? I see that they're traveling to San Francisco. Like, how can I get them to stop by? And they'd be like, well, send me an offer. And I was like, $1,000? And they're like, how about $5K and like 50% of the door? I'm like, done. And then I would have to figure out how I was going to pay that money.
That's wild.
Yeah, so I loved it. I thought it was so fun. I did that, and that helped me control my drinking. I was just like, felt like I had to be on the night of, and I couldn't get too crazy. But then I'd have nights where like Mickey Avalon would invite me to go party, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna say no.
Right.
Or like I remember like I was like getting everything for T-Pain's writer, and he wanted like it was like a dozen chicken wings of like every single flavor you could imagine. And I was like so excited, and I got all of it and like delivered it, and like then he invited me to like hang out, and I was like, oh my God, yes, of course. And what do you know? Like, we're off to the races.
Wow.
So it was, yeah, it was tough because like the owner was like, yo, she's so good and she's so motivated and she's smart, yet like she's such an asshole when she gets drunk, like entitled. Like my friends used to call it Jenni from the block, because I'd just be like, and it was like, who is this girl? Like, jeez. And it was just like, yeah, these parts of me that were like so repressed and like constantly going through life like as a people pleaser and like yes, of course, anything you say, like yeah, like. And then like when I drank, I was able to just like be like ruthless and like be like, no, this is what it is, this, that,
Yeah.
and then like. Yeah, I got fired from there when there was a band performing and they weren't very good, and I was just like, you guys, off the stage, you're done. And like, that's so rude.
Yeah.
Like, who is this little girl like saying that? And I ended up getting fired, and that was like a big wake up call that I needed, even though I've been fired everywhere else. I was like, man, I think I really there's nowhere else for me to work in this town. So I ended up getting like a 9-to-5 working at like a staffing agency. And again, I was like trying to rebuild my life. I was like saving up for a car and like had an apartment and like really was trying to do the best I can. And I got fired from there too, because I was just like this big kettle of tea, and you bump in and it just like splashes out and it's hot water and it's burning and everyone's like, ah, like I was just really not great to be around. And I didn't understand, because I was like, I went through these periods where, well, I'm not drinking. Why am I not getting better? And it wasn't until like I found a 12-step program that like it's the alcohol is just like merely a symptom. You know, there was like so much more for me to work on. So I pulled a geographic. I got fired, and I had a really nice person at that job who like took some pity on me, and he sold me like a beater car. It was like his wife's old car. He sold it to me for like $1,000 and was like, here, like do what you need to do. And I got in it, and I moved to LA, and I parked. And I was like, I'm here. Like, what's gonna happen? So I parked in West Hollywood because I was like, West Hollywood seems safe. But it was awful because I kept getting so many tickets. Because you're not really supposed to like live on the street in your car in West Hollywood.
That's fair.
Yeah. So I just kind of like went around town, and I like would stay at someone's house for like maybe 2 nights on your couch so you wouldn't get sick of me, and then like go back in my car and then find someone else. And I was just like really rotating. I wasn't drinking during this time. I was like, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do. Like, I have to do it. And I really wanted to be in the music industry. And in my mind, I was like, oh, if I just had my dream job in the music industry, I would be okay. Like, I would be happy. Everything would be good. So I put pen to paper, and I like really took some time to study like my favorite artists and like who their management teams were. And one of them was this artist, Zoo, his electronic DJ, who I was just like, I loved. I studied his manager, I studied the team, and I was just like, I'm gonna work for him. That's gonna be it. So I wrote him a letter, and that letter somehow like ended up it ended up in multiple people's hands, but lastly, like his girlfriend's hand, who read it and was like, "There's something about this girl. Like, you should at least talk to her." And he did, and he like put me through like rigorous like tests in order to determine if I'd be a good fit. And one of them was he walked in the room with my cover letter, and he put it in front of me and said, "I want you to circle all of the grammar and spelling mistakes and then give it back to me." And I was like, okay. So I like did it, and I was like, there could be a comma there and this, that. And I was like, wait, I think that's it. And I gave it back, and I had like no attitude about it. And I was just like very like eager to know like what the mistake was. And he was like, "I like that, like, so he gave me a shot, and I used that job to try to stay sober. I clung onto it so hard. It was a management company that had like Zoo, Cruella, Nombe, MFN, Gallant, and we ended up signing Grace Vanderwall, who had just won America's Got Talent, and I became her day-to-day manager. And I loved that little girl. I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. And yeah, I tried really hard. I worked really hard. I tried to add value. I was still miserable, and I didn't understand why. Yeah. I was still defiant and hard-headed, and despite, trying my best, I just wasn't pleasant to be around. But I was such a hard worker that I continually got more chances and got to stick around until finally my boss at the time noted. He was like, "Something's off with you. Like, I don't know what it is, but I look at you and there's nothing behind your eyes." And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, is there something I can do? And I was like, no, it's fine. And I just kind of kept working, but I had this amazing experience where he took me to New York for Grammy Week, and we got to go to all the best parties and meet amazing people and see all the performers. And one of the nights, I couldn't even leave my hotel room. I was just sitting there by myself with the door shut. And I didn't understand why. We had we were gonna go to this amazing party. Everything was great. And I just I felt like a shell of a human. And that's when I surrendered, and I was just like, yo, what do I need to do? Because this isn't sustainable. All these things that I've gotten, it's not filling whatever this emptiness is. Yeah. So I ended up when we came home, I had an incident where I was self-medicating while working, and I called my boss drunk, and was working, was not rude. It was just hey, I need some clarity on this. And he was just what? Are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then the next day he was just hey, I think you need some help. And that was the first time in my life that I had ever had something worth losing. Every other job, I didn't care about. It was just going through life, causing this whole wreckage. But just changing my circle of people so it wouldn't catch up to me. And so he put me in this program called Mastery of Transformational Training. Yeah, it was really interesting. I was desperate to keep my job, so I went. And it's essentially a 12-step group for people without active addiction. It's interesting. Okay. It was a lot of principles that I had learned in the 12-step program, but a lot of it was trauma healing and working with partner work and working with your inner child. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't feel anything. People were breaking down in tears, and people were processing all these things, and I was just dude, what is this? And the people who ran it kind of noticed. They were just hey, there's something off about her, and they pulled me aside, and they're just are you an alcoholic? I was I'm not even drinking today. What? And they were when's the last time you drank? I was a couple days ago. Yeah. They're hey, we typically don't let people take this program unless they have 6 months sober. But, your boss, he's really important here, so we went ahead and let you do it. But I just want to tell you that this is not a substitute for going to a 12-step program for you.
Yeah.
And that did it for me. That's what made me actually like go to my first meeting. And at the time I lived in Sherman Oaks, and there was like a little church on the corner, and I was able, on Dickens.
Yep.
And I was able to just like walk there. And I walked there Monday night, and I walked into like a group of women, and I sat in the back. I didn't talk to anyone for probably 3 months.
Yep.
And then I left early until there was someone speaking that night who said what I needed to hear. And I love this story because it's so gross, but also like relatable. But she essentially said, she's like, when you're out there in the world, it's like you're driving a dump truck, and you're just going, and you're going and going and going, and there's like trash falling off the edges, and it's going, you're causing all this wreckage, and you're not even like noticing. And then when you get sober, it like pushes the brakes. You stop, but then all the trash comes up. And like, then you're like, the journey is like kind of going through it and getting yourself clean of it and like cleaning up. And I just was like, I'd like start crying all over myself, and everyone's like, what? Like, this girl talks. And they were just like so welcoming. They were like, tell us what's wrong. And I was like, that's what my life feels like. Like I'm getting sober, and I'm trying to get better, yet I keep having all these problems, and it's like way harder, and I'm not happy, and I just don't understand this. I never had a pink cloud, ever. And they just loved me through it. They're like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's supposed to suck. And I'm like, really? They're like, just hang in there, And I was just like, all right. So I did. And I finally admitted to like the universe, what God, whatever at the time, I didn't believe in anything, that I don't think I could keep this job and this career that I love so much and also get sober. So I got fired. It was crazy. I literally, like, a couple days later, like, my boss pulled me in and he was like, hey, like, I don't think this is working out. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm amazing. Like, what? And I got fired, and it was this beautiful experience where I got to be sober full time. And I did. I climbed onto my chair. I went to meetings, and the Valley is an amazing place to get sober. There's so much recovery and so much help. And that's really what I did. I ended up losing my living situation too, which wasn't great. It was not for me at all. It was horrible, actually. But someone in the rooms offered me their spare bedroom, and I lost my car. I just got towed off the street. And people in the rooms like gave me rides, and I had people like, I joined a gratitude list, and I had someone like in another state on the list send me like Trader Joe's gift cards for food. And I just did the best I could. I tried to feed myself and go to a meeting and not be an asshole to anyone. And I did that for about 6 months, and my life like pretty quickly got better. And I decided to put the pen and paper again. I was like, all right, what's next for me? Who am I gonna work for? And I picked an amazing woman that I wanted to be my mentor, and went to go work at Atlantic Records. And there, it was a great work experience, but it was 9 to 5. I was there at 9, was not late. I showed up, I was dressed, I looked good, and I left at the end of the day, and I went to a meeting. And I like would walk up to the street and like get on the bus and take the bus back to like Western in the little room that I was renting at the time. And just did that every day for like a year and a half, and just really put the program first, and it like really changed everything. So pretty quickly from there, I got poached and worked at another label with like artists that I loved, and really started figuring out like what I wanted to do with life. And I ended up creating my own digital marketing agency where I run ads for artists and musicians, and I like get to work with my favorite artists now. And it's really cool because I have always been super interested in content and like music video production and that, and I get to do that and run ads on it. And it's like this like win-win situation because your ads are only as good as your content. So it's my dream. It's my absolute dream job. I make a living off it. It gives me a sense of purpose, but it also gives me the flexibility to make sure that I do keep the program that I'm working like at the forefront. So you flash forward 6 years later, I have an amazing apartment in West Hollywood. I have 2 French bulldogs, and they're like twins, and they're so cute, and it's everything I ever wanted, and I never even thought I could keep something alive because I never have before. And I have 2, and they're thriving, and they're healthy. We go to the vet, and we do all the things we need to do, and it's everything is different. I like my credit was like 420 when I got sober, and I was like so proud of that, which is horrible. And I've like gotten it up like tremendously, and it's like it's been a lot of work paying off like so many debts, so much bad credit, like so many like loans I took out that I just never thought I would ever have to pay, and like people calling me, and I used to never even open my mail. I never used to answer the phone. It was like people were always looking for me. I was always in trouble. And to really like clean up that wreckage, and it took like the help of people in the program. And then I pretty much qualify for every 12-step program there is.
Oh, yeah.
And I've dipped my toes in all of them in order to get help. So, I just say recovery like completely changed my life, and I like would not be like sitting here today without it. I feel like I was talking a lot.
No, that was an amazing share, and I appreciate you sharing your journey with me. I loved so many things, like everything that you said, but there's a lot of points where I was like, I love that you mentioned it. Like one of my favorites was that you had that one friend, I think, that went to rehab and came back. And you said like she didn't push anything on you. She didn't, all she did was be an example of the program, and how that like intrigued you and caught your eye. I think that's like, that was really, really cool to hear. And that's like probably the most effective too that I've seen, kind of just like attraction, not promotion, 100%.
Exactly. And that's why like I have personally chosen to be like open about my sobriety, because my drinking was very public and I hurt a lot of people, but also like through my recovery, I have this like superpower, I would say now, to like connect with like artists on a level, like really understanding like, the crazy brain and the like low self-esteem and like the hurt, and like it's been huge for me, and I've been able to help a lot of artists just by just being open and just being like a example that like you can live a successful life sober. Yeah. So
that's so cool. I would imagine that in that industry that there's a lot of, or I've seen it, a lot of drugs and alcohol, and it's normalized and it's like expected to a degree, I feel like. So that's so cool that you're in there and be like, actually, you can do this stuff. I do this stuff. It works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And people are always surprised. They're like, what? But you're like, you're come happy and you're full of energy. I'm like, yeah, like I do a daily reprieve in order to show up that way. It's not my normal state. I wake up like, another day. Like, I can't believe I'm here. Like, God. And it like sucks. I hate that that's like my inner like monologue. Like that's where my brain goes. It's like a negative, dark place all the time. But I have learned through the program, been through also like therapy and like so many other self-help things, like what tools I need to use in order to be, the person I want. And a lot of it just comes down to thinking and perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, your energy is like off the charts. I absolutely love it. Like and while you're talking too, it's just like captivating. So I can imagine people want to be around you and like listen to you. So it's really beautiful to see that.
Thank you for saying that, because it's like definitely did not wake up this way.
Yeah, that's fair. No, daily reprieve. Yeah, just like working all the time. I was just talking to our guest last week, Skip, and he was talking about. I was talking a little bit about how when I started the program, kind of similar to you, a little bit. I was like 1 foot in, and then I was like, I don't need that, and then leave, and then come back, and then leave, and then come back. And even when I did start actually working with like a sponsor and doing stuff like that, I would do like, I'd go meet up with my sponsor, and we'd read for like 2 hours, and then I was like, all right, well, I'm not talking to him for a month because, you know, that maximized what I needed from him. You know, I feel great, and I would just ride that feeling great until the next time I was drained, and then come back and try to do it that way. And that just did not work for me. Like it has to be a daily surrender. It has to be, you know, daily readings and prayer and all that stuff for me. If I want to be, you know, if I'm shooting to be my best self, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I listened to that episode actually.
Yeah.
It was really great.
Thank you.
Yes. You guys tackled so many great things,
Yeah.
but I really resonated with like intimate relationships have been so difficult for me, like my entire life, but maybe more so in sobriety actually. And having a relationship with a sponsor, like, didn't come easy. And I had to try out a lot of sponsors until now I have like the most perfect sponsor for me who shows up. Like she gives me things that like I always wanted from a mother, and I like just didn't even know I needed. Like she tells me that she loves me. She checks in with me when I fall off the charts.
Yeah.
And she shows up for me in a way that like I haven't really had anyone show up for me before. And it's just like, it's so beautiful. But one of the tools that one of my first sponsors gave me, which helped me really like figure out like what this like sense of like a higher power universe or anything like that like I needed in order to like get this program, was she had me write down in my notes in my phone anytime like things just worked out when you didn't think they would. And I called it my miracles list. And it would just be like, yeah, you know, when you're like in a pickle and you just like, it doesn't seem like it's gonna work out and somehow it does, write it down. And that's how I was able to like see so many times in my life where like, oh, I'm not alone. Like something is always rooting for me. I'm somehow get out of these like crazy pickles that it's like, I mean, I would get in. But it was just so great, like watching them. And then when I would like go so in like self-pity and I'd be on the phone with her and I'd be like, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this one. I like this and I owe this much money. I came out and my new car was actually towed and I can't get it out because I have 4 tickets and I haven't paid my registration in 2 years, all in sobriety, yes. And she's like, look at your miracles list. Look at all the other times in which you didn't think it would work out. Why wouldn't this be any different? And what do you know? It worked out.
Yeah.
So like that was like such an important tool for me that like really helped me. And I continue like try to find the miracles. And I saw this little like meme on Instagram yesterday and was like, it says, look for the glimmers, the little like sparkly parts of your day that like bring you joy.
Yeah.
And like once you notice the glimmers, you'll attract more glimmers. I was like, okay, I'm gonna look for the glimmers. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. It's like, as an alcoholic, I've heard before, like I could go to a baseball game with my friends, have a great time, leave and get home, and someone could ask me how the baseball game went, and I would tell you that I lost my wallet. You know, it's like, what am I going to focus on? And trying to actively change my focus and understanding that I've always been taken care of, I've always been provided for in one way or another. And like through your story, I heard that too. Like in one way or another, you made it.
Yeah.
You know?
I somehow from like living in a car on the street to working like my absolute dream, what I thought at the time was my dream,
Yeah.
to now like 4 years later realizing, no, actually, it's my dream to have my own company.
Right.
Like that's it. And like who knows what's going to be in a couple of years.
Yeah.
So it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah. It's so amazing. It's like getting fired could have been, or getting fired led you to the next thing, to the next, and like our higher power doing for us what we couldn't do for ourselves.
Exactly. Like I had to really like get out of my own way and realize like I don't know what's best for me.
No.
My best thinking has gotten me like DUI, arrest, like 20K in credit card debt, like wrecked cars. Like it's like I had to get out of the way and just like surrender to like let someone else kind of like drive for a little bit.
Yeah. And isn't it freeing too?
Yeah.
I mean, I've experienced so much freedom and weightlessness from surrendering to my higher power.
Absolutely. And like the realization that like, yo, like the universe like has your back. It's working for you, not against you.
Yeah.
So how do we harness that energy and attract more of what we want and be intentional with what it is? Like, want something. I never wanted anything.
Yeah.
I just wanted to freaking like survive. I just wanted to like have food that day. And now it's like I want so many more things. I like want like intimacy. I want, you know, a family. I want my dogs to be healthy and happy. And I do things every day that I'm lying. I actually love going to the dog park. Like stuff that gives them so much joy. So it's, yeah, I'm really, really glad that I got out of my way. And it's like a good reminder for me to continually get out of my way and like, you know, let God, universe, whatever you choose to call it in as the driving force.
Yeah. And I used to be so resentful at the people in meetings that would say stuff like that. Like, be all happy. Like, I relate to sitting in the back and leaving early too. I remember just like looking at everyone laughing and talking after and fellowship and being like, I hate those guys. Like, they're so happy. I don't get it. You know?
Yeah. I really struggled with fellowship. I really struggled making connections. I had a sponsor who would ask me to go to fellowship every Saturday at noon for lunch. And I just sat there and half the time I couldn't afford to buy lunch. So I'd sit there with like a coffee and like people try to talk to me and I'd just be like, but I did it. I showed up and like I actually let people get to know me. And that's been one of the greatest privileges I've had is like actually like showing up to the same place enough times where people could get to know me and miss me if I'm not there and hold me accountable. Yeah. And that's why like the program has like worked like really well for like me particularly. And now as I have like 6 years and I'm like kind of like learning and growing, expanding, I'm like, I was able to 2 years ago afford therapy. Yeah. And like really, I did therapy every single week for a year. Now it's every other week because it's really expensive. But that was like a huge investment in myself. And I have an amazing therapist who also works with a lot of people in the music industry and also does EMDR. So it's been a beautiful journey with her. And I can like so tangibly see the growth. And I'm like, it's part of my life now. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to like graduate therapy. It's just going to be,
Yeah, we're not going to graduate our 12-step program either. You know? Oh, yeah, I love how everyone's program like builds and changes and grows as time goes, the ebbs and flows, and it's not always going to be, you know, amazing. It sounds like you're in a really good spot right now, and I feel like I am too. I feel similarly. I love what I do for work. I love where my recovery is, my relationships, stuff like that.
And it's interesting because we have about the same amount of time too. Yeah. You're like a year ahead of me.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, God willing, I'll get it next week, which is dope.
So I wanted to tell you something about that. I had a very smart woman repeat something else that had been said in the rooms, but she's like, I don't understand why people say God willing.
Me neither. I just say it because someone else said it.
Yeah, she was like, God is always willing. I have to be willing.
I like that.
And that always stuck with me. Yeah. And I've never said it again because it's like, yeah, if I'm willing to do it, it's going to work out. Yeah. Your God all wants you to get your 7 years. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, point. It's like, yes, 11, hell yeah.
Yeah. You know? That's fire. I like that. Me willing.
I know, right? How do you say it in a cooler way?
Yeah. But yeah, next Saturday will be 7 years, which I'm hyped for.
On a Saturday too. What are you going to do?
I think I'm going to be in San Diego. So that should be electric. My sponsor just got 13 years, like two and a half weeks ago, and still moving and grooving. You know, like things are going so well. Even like from this time last year, not that things weren't going well, but I've just this year really doubled and tripled down on my recovery, being of service, working with others. When I'm upset, when I'm in my own way, call someone that I know is struggling or something like that, you know, that has been such a powerful tool to get out of my own way. It's like asking someone what I can do for them, you know, or ask them how their day is. And it's always funny to me how resistant I was to listening for so long, or how resistant, we are in the program. It's like, my way is the best way, and I can show you why. And like, someone else can be like, are you sure? Like Skip last week was talking about our thinking can be so wrong or like deceptive. Like, our own thinking is just like a lot, lying to ourselves a lot about a lot of things.
And I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely believe it. And it's just like, yeah, I have to like run stuff by someone else.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, 100%. But you mentioned EMDR. We've been talking a lot about EMDR. I did EMDR when I was in treatment, and I'd love to get back into it too. But I think that's so cool that you've built your program up to where you're doing your 12-step, have your therapist doing this.
What's cool is like everything happens in the time frame that it should. Like if I would have like got sober or started a program, then it was like, all right, time to like fix everything. I'm going to do therapy. Like I would have never stuck with it. Like it happened when it needed to. And when I was like emotionally sober to be able to like, and financially sober to be able to afford a therapist and know that like that's a good investment for me to make.
Yeah.
And now at 6 years, I'm realizing just how much my addiction is manifesting itself in other ways. One of them is shopping.
There you go.
Yeah. And how much like temporary joy that gives me. Yet like that's not conducive to my long-term goals of like buying a house and like, starting a family. So there's a seat in another program for me there. And I'm so blessed that I have a sponsor who is in that program. And is saving me a chair when I'm like ready to sit down in it.
That's dope. I feel similarly to that. I feel like I could jump into any of those 12-step programs and listen at least, because I'd be too scared to share. But something I've been working on a ton recently is the goddamn vapes. I tried to quit vaping yesterday at like 10 p.m. or 2 days ago, like 10, threw it away, and then went to the gym and then went and bought vapes again. This time, for whatever reason, was like very irritating. And I talked with my sponsor, and he was like, just keep vaping. He's like, do you enjoy it? And I was like, not really, but kind of. And he was like, just keep vaping until you don't enjoy it anymore. And I was like, God damn it, dude.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to keep doing what you're doing until you can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And you'll stop.
Yeah, that's fair. When it comes to like the 6 years in recovery, what are some things that, because I know where you're at now, but can you, I guess, describe those 6 years a little bit more? Like what have the 6 years of recovery looked like for your friend relationships, family relationships, stuff like that?
Yeah, I consider I got very lucky in the sense that in that Monday night group that I walked into, I met my best friends. And there just happened to be like 10 young women who all have about the same amount of time as I do, who are all doing it together. And that was so powerful and so special for me. And they were all a lot more outgoing at the time than me. I was like very shy. I still am shy at meetings. I'm like not the person that's gonna go talk to you and be like, yo, what's up?
Yeah.
It takes like a little bit for me to feel comfortable and like get out of my shell with you. But these ladies did. And I have built the most like amazing friendships where I've been at, bachelorette parties, at weddings, for the birth of their kids, and watching these miracles and these promises like come true for them, and knowing that like if I like stick around, like that could be true for me too. And during the pandemic, I ended up like creating my own meeting, and I had it 2 times a week, and it was called Sobriety, and we spilled the tea, and it was with like my closest like sober friends, and it was like a space where you had to share every week.
Oh.
Yeah. And we spilled the tea, and we talked about like what was really going on. And there wasn't a specific topic per se. It was just like how are you really? And that made such a profound like impression on all of us. We held each other through divorce and traveling cross country and when the pandemic started, I lost a marketing director position that I had that I was like so excited about. And then it was like devastating. And I got to just like let people hold me. And I got this fuel to create my own company. And it ended up being, such an amazing experience for me. That really, really, really helped me. And I actually just had a reminder this week of someone who like mentioned the tea and was like, oh, I miss the tea. I was like, why don't I do that? Yeah. It was so helpful. So I'm like, oh, I'm an alcoholic. Oh, I'm not going to do that anymore then. But like, no, like that is such an important tool for me. And like, I'm excited. I'm going to set it up for next week and like keep that going and creating that safe space for women to like really just like share what's really going on. Yeah. So that has been super helpful for me. I've been on the same gratitude list for 6 years. So I've watched like all these people's lives transform and like get to see like what's really going on. And, you know, one of the women like lost her son to leukemia through it and now is doing these like huge cancer events and like awareness. And it's just like, it's so beautiful and inspiring. And I literally have met some of the coolest people and through my sobriety and through the program and outside of the program too. Just like you'd be amazed at how many like there's sober artists and musicians there are that are like really prolific. Yeah. So that definitely fuels me and like gets me really excited. Yeah, I think that's through my family. I have worked hard to make living amends. I show up. I come to birthdays. I show up at holidays. I really try to participate. I FaceTime my mom and see how things are going. Yeah. That has been really important to me. My family life has been difficult because my parents were very young. They were 18 and when they met and had kids. And I have 2 brothers, one older, one younger, and all 3 of us have like addiction issues. And my older brother is currently estranged and no one has talked to him. And it sucks and it's sad, but it also like shows me like that's someone who's like is suffering without a program. Yeah. You know, and that's the best that he can do. Is, you know, separate himself and like live his own life and like have those boundaries. And I'm grateful that like I have the choice I could do that too, or I could really, you know, set boundaries with myself and show up when I need to and take breaks when I have to go and really try to heal from the trauma that I experienced as a child. Which was mostly my parents were so young, they both worked full time and I was in daycare a lot. And I spent a lot of time alone. And fantasy, I would say, was my first addiction. Yep. I loved it. I would read books by myself all the time. And I was always wanted to be somewhere else. I always wanted a different life. Ooh, that just took me back. Yeah. I still love books. Like, I still find myself, like, really indulging in fantasy, too, as a way to, like, cope and self-medicate. I agree. And I have to, like, really bring myself back and be like, okay, like, where are you in the present? You are sitting right here. Your feet are on the ground. Like, but EMDR has really helped me with a lot of that and healing that. And, like, what's so important to me is to heal that trauma so I don't transfer it to my kids or to the people around me one day. Right. And that's been everything because, you know, a lot of it, like my dad is sober and in a program, which has like drastically like helped my family dynamic. My mom really like has had a hard life. And she grew up like, you know, without a father, with like an abusive mom, like, and just like never really like healed a lot of that. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, like it passed down to a lot of us with like unknowingly. And I have like done a lot of work to try to heal from that. And like, it was hard because when I would share like what I was suffering with or like what was hard, it was just like, really? Like, look at what I had to deal with. Mm-hmm. Like, and like telling me these like horrible stories. And I would just shut up. I'd be like, oh yeah, like I have nothing to complain about. It's cool. But like, you know, like isolation and like being alone and like not feeling a part of and like not like feeling like you have a caretaker is like a big, like
Definitely.
that is trauma. And in sobriety, I had an instance where I was at a meeting and I went across the street to Starbucks to get coffee and I tripped and I hurt my arm. And I went back to the meeting and I sat in it. And I was just like, my arm really hurts. And my sponsor's like, yo, if you're hurt, like go to the doctor. I was like, no, what? No. And I just sat there, was like, and she's like, dude, we go to the doctor. We take care of ourselves when we're hurt. And I was like, she literally picked me up, took me out, put me in the car and drove me to the ER. And my arm was broken.
No way.
Yeah. And I had a full cast and everything. And she was like, why were you just sitting there with a broken arm? I was like, well, when I was little, I tripped over a sprinkler and I broke my arm. And my parents told me it wasn't broken and that it wasn't that bad. And it really hurt.
Yeah.
And I slept all night with it broken. And then the next day, my mom like felt bad and took the day off and took me to the doctor, and it was broken and I had a cast.
Yeah.
And like that feeling like it was a nuisance to take care of it. It was a nuisance to like, you know, take me to the doctor like that, like made me like not speak up about what I was feeling if I was physically hurt. And I got this beautiful example of my sponsor like helping me change that and rewrite that history. And like, no, now when I'm hurt, I go to the doctor, I take care of it and I heal. And like knowing that like wasn't okay for me to like, for that little girl to not have her needs met. So I'm constantly learning these things through sobriety of things that like I have totally forgot about. I didn't even remember that happened. Yeah. And I'm definitely like less clumsy now. I don't trip as much. But yeah, that was like a huge growing experience and a good part of therapy too, to like work with it with a professional too and like be like, yo, you know that's not okay. Right. And I just didn't know. I was like, seems normal to me.
Yeah. Isn't it wild how those things like pop up too from childhood?
Yeah, that I completely like blocked out.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
That stuff is insane. I feel that a lot. I relate to using fantasy as an escape. Anything that could get me out of now, you know, before I started using drugs and alcohol, anything that could get me out of now. And yeah, I relate to that a lot. I was in a similar situation to you. So it's interesting how I always say it, and it's just wild how vital community is, you know? It's like being a part of that group with a shared experience where people actually care about you and you care about them. Like that is literally like the cure, you know? It's one of the main things that we need, and it's one of the main things that we're lacking, and it's one of the main things that we feel we don't have when we're in active addiction. Like the isolation, it's all of these are all my problems. I have nobody, you know, that really reinforces the negative things that you do to yourself in active addiction, such as using drugs and alcohol and putting yourself in situations that you wouldn't do if you loved yourself or loved someone else, you know, even if you love someone else. So it's so amazing to hear you and see your story. Like, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, the community is everything. And I didn't even know that I lacked community and that I like needed it so bad. For my 5th sobriety birthday, I had a tea party, an actual tea party with china and mini pastries. And I had so many people show up for me. And like one of them like sparked this like activity where she's like talked about why I'm so impactful in her life. And then it went around the table and everyone else did it. And I was like, I had never experienced that before. And I didn't even know these people thought that about me. And like, it's so cool, like to tell people how much they impact you, tell them that you love them. And it really, like, I got to sit there and like literally see like the community I've built and like how I wouldn't have this if I wouldn't have like gotten sober. And it like, and I don't want to lose it. I will do like whatever I need to do to protect it. Yeah. So it's everything. It's tough. It's like my sponsor was there, and like for her to show up and continually show up for me in this like way that I've like never experienced. It's wild.
Yeah. going forward, like where you're at now, how do you see, you have your own business now. How have you had experiences, you don't have to like name drop or anything, with like people coming to you and asking for help from you outside of the rooms, just, why are you so happy all the time? Like, what do you do?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've had people like, what's so cool about my agency and like what I do is like, there are a lot of other people who do digital marketing too that are much better than me. Yeah. But artists like working with me, and they like the energy, and they like that I'm transparent and I'm honest, and I do what I say I'm going to do. And if I can't, I'll be honest about it. Yeah. And that's like, that integrity is like really made such a difference. And the fact that it's so much more than just like a paycheck for me. Like I want to know like how my artists are doing, like what's going on, like, and as a result, I've had artists that I've worked with for like 6 years that I continue to work with. And now I just started getting into management, and I have 2 clients.
There you go.
And I didn't ever think I was going to manage again after the one that got away. I was just like, oh, that's it. That was too intimate for me. Yeah. I never want my heart broken in that way. As far as like, I really felt like I did a lot of work for this girl and her family, and the fact that they could just fire you was like traumatic. But 6 years later, I've healed from it a lot, and I've shared about it, and I've had this beautiful experience where I've had 2 artists ask me, and they're so sick. They're so good. And it's just been, I was like, I didn't think I was going to do this, but okay, we're going to do this, and I get to and it's so funny because one of them's name is Grace too. Oh, so God. I literally have like a second shot at Grace. Yeah, 2 Graces. So it's just, it's really beautiful getting to try again, knowing that they could both fire me at any moment too. Yeah. They could both be unhappy with me, and like that's it. And I like have spent so much time with them and like really feel invested. But like that's kind of like the price we pay in order to have intimate relationships and to have these bonds. Yeah. So.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I made a joke with you before. I mean, all the digital marketing and stuff like that, I've been trying to figure that out. I know the podcasting is different, but I feel like I always used to say, like, I think it's so wild that people hire someone to do that. Like, it looks so easy. And then once I started getting into, like, even just cutting clips and stuff like that, I was like, not even ads or anything, like, getting even close to that. I was like, this is definitely a full-time job.
So when I got fired during the pandemic, I was so scared because I was like, wow, now I'm in the middle of a pandemic with no health insurance, no income, and I just moved into my own little studio for the first time in my life. I've never lived alone. I've never been able to. What am I going to do? And a woman from my program is also a lawyer and was able to help me navigate that situation and also provide me with my first job as my digital marketing agency. And she hosts a podcast called 52 Weeks of Hope.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, in which she interviews people and gets their experience with like how they've overcome really hard times. And it was beautiful. It gave me something to do. Yeah. I got to do the branding and the website and cut up all the assets and make sure there was like video and chop it up into ads and try to like grow it. Yeah. And it was everything. I needed that little paycheck every single month in order to build a foundation so that I could create my own company. So I feel super grateful. It's like it all comes around. It really does. So I've experienced doing that too. Like it's just like you never know what tools and how it's going to benefit other people and like how they can help you in a hard time too. So
yeah. That's true. I've had the best experience just kind of letting it go and seeing what happens. That's when like a lot of good things started happening, which is unfortunate to my ego that like that's how that worked out. But it's really true. Like as soon as I like fully took my hands off and take my hands off every single day, I have like really wild, unexplainable experiences all the time, every day. And I feel like I'm just kind of sitting back and watching,
Which is so wild because you wouldn't think that that's how it is.
Right.
I tried so hard in all of my jobs that I got fired from. I tried so hard to manage and control and be a great worker and do this and control that outcome. And like when I stopped and I just like sat back a little bit and like let it happen and like everything changed. And like, where do you learn that? Like, that's not what I thought that, the American dream was.
Yeah.
But like, that's what I have personally found to make the biggest impact. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's speaking to that real quick, at the end when I was in rehab, I went to a meeting there. They took us to meetings every day. And I went back home and wrote, you should start your own 12-step program. And it was like a Mitch's AA or whatever. And it was just so funny how I was like so locked into like I went to a meeting and my first thought coming back was I can do that better.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like how psychotic is that? Like something that's worked for millions and millions of people for coming up on like 100 years. And I was like my first thought was, yeah, I can do that better. So
I so relate.
I'm so happy I grew up that.
I'm so glad you like wrote that down and you like look back at it now and be like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I still have my journal from rehab. It has a lot of funny stuff in there, some good stuff too. But thank you so much for joining us today. It was a joy to listen to you and hear from you and hear your story. I related to a ton of it. I'm sure a lot of our listeners will really appreciate it. Yeah, it's been dope.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so great. Getting to know you. Yeah, my first podcast ever.
Absolutely killed it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you to the Vic James Center as well for sponsoring this episode. Thank you to Nova for being here today, helping us.
Pleasure.
Appreciate you always. And one final thing, on November 12th from 3 to 6.
I was just going to say it. Are you going to be there? You were going to say it? Yeah.
The Vic James Center is going to be doing the fundraiser. What do you got on it?
Yes. I mean, the fact that I'll be there.
There you go. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'll definitely be there. And I hope to see you too.
Yes. We'll hope to see you guys there as well. This has been episode 62 with Jenni. Thank you so much. We'll keep coming back.
Good job, guys.
Yay.
Thank you. That was sick.